Go ahead, punk. Make me play.
This is Bumping Into That Sound.
Welcome to Bumping Into That Sound, the rock-centric music and tone podcast where we dive deep into the riffs, rhythms and stories behind your favourite artists, tracks and instruments. My name is Francis and I'm your host. Whether you're a classic rock enthusiast or just discovering the magic of it for the first time, we've got you covered. Each episode, we explore the story behind the sounds, the people and the equipment. For those that don't know, Bumping Into That Sound is part of the Bumping Into family of podcasts. The idea behind Bumping Into is long-form conversations across a wide range of topics. So, if you're into more than just music, head over to bumpinginto.com.au or search Bumping Into on your podcast player and discover a range of other podcasts from health to history and a swag of interesting people and insights. There's also a few of the original music-based shows on that channel. You can check them out because they might not have made it across to this one just yet. My guest today is Ronnie Simmons. Ronnie's been the star guitarist for Faster Pussycat, Richie Ramone, Rose Tattoo, and now his own project with the Redback Spiders. From life within the LA rock scene to guitars and amps, we're going to cover it all with the Australian-born, world-admired rock guitarist. So turn up the volume and tune in for an insight into the world of rock and roll. G'day, Ronnie. How you going?
Mate, I'm doing good. How you doing?
Yeah, really good, really good. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Well, mate, before we go into all the new and exciting stuff, because I know you've got the EP, well, the single out. If you've got the time, I wanted to go back to the beginning, to
Sure.
pre-famous Ronnie, to pre-suburban kid playing the guitar, and find out where, because obviously your sound comes from your origins.
Yeah.
So who were you picking up the guitar to, or who got you picking up that guitar?
Marty McFly.
Really? Back to the Future?
I saw Back to the Future and I went, I want to do that.
When he was standing in front of that big speaker, no doubt.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what like sparked the fuse, so to speak. But after that, I discovered AC/DC and Kiss. And then the Ramones and Rose Tattoo, and then it kind of just snowballed. But really early influences definitely Malcolm and Angus Young, Ace Frehley from Kiss, and in I think it was 2002, the ABC put out that documentary Long Way to the Top: Stories of Australian Rock and Roll.
Yep.
It's actually a funny story. Gene Alberts, who directed the music video we just put out, has been my lifelong friend. His stepdad is Graham Bond, that played Auntie Jack. So,
wow.
Yeah, we go way back. And I would have been like barely 12, 13 years old. And Graham Bond knew I was obsessed with this music and guitar. He's like, you got to watch this. And I sat down and watched the series with him when it was on TV. And that was the first time I heard Bad Boy for Love, like got exposed to, the Tats, the Angels, everything else that, deeper than AC/DC. And that just changed me. It was like, an epiphany. And then it was a matter of I used to busk before I had a band. Like I used to joke when I was like 12 years old, like my dream in life was just to meet someone else that liked Kiss, so I'd have something to talk to them. Around 2001 in Newtown, Sydney, not many 12-year-olds were cranking that kind of music. And so what I'd do is I'd finish school, and I had an old acoustic guitar, and I'd literally leave school, go sit outside the National Bank on King Street on this park bench with an acoustic guitar and just play and scream like Rock and Roll Outlaw, Ramones, Rockaway Beach, Strato by Kiss, like all those songs that's how I kind of learned how to play, was playing those songs. And and I'd just sit there and people would be like, man, like this, how old is this kid? And every day I'd do it, and it was on average, I'd make about $30, $40. So I'd go straight to the record store and just buy a new CD and then learn that and then play those songs the next day. And that's kind of how I discovered all these bands was, I'd go to the record store and be like, all right, Rose Tattoo self-titled, and then get that. And then it'd be back, it'd be like Kiss, Dress to Kill, and then get that. And I just, that's how I kind of funded my music habit until eventually around 14, 15, some guys found me on the street and were like, hey man, we're looking for a guitarist. Do you want to do it?
And then it all took off. That was it.
Yeah. Oh, I wouldn't say that quickly. Like it was,
but at least you're in now, not
yeah,
just you.
yeah. It was like that's how it kind of started. And then it was, all right, so this is what it's like to be in a band. Like,
Yeah.
I was in 10th grade and
Oh, it's still young.
like, yeah, and my bandmates were like in their early 20s. So I was like 15 years old and I'd sound check the gigs and then hide in the toilets with the door shut in case, because if they went around IDing people, I would have been thrown out in a second. And then after that, like by the time they'd open the doors, then I'd go out. And I learned at a young age, I was just like, well, if I just act like I'm 18 and I'm meant to be here, like
no one
I was
will
always
approach you.
lanky, no one questioned. I used to push my hair in my eyes and they'd be like, oh yeah. And it was a crazy time because it's like, I'm a 15-year-old living the life of like an 18, 19-year-old. And then I'd go to school the next day. And it was like a really weird duality between like,
the two worlds.
You look fucking weird, man. And then on the weekends, it was just like, like crazy.
Yeah.
So it was a really, really cool and special time in my life that I'm always going to look back on fondly. But it's hard to believe it was 20 years ago.
20 years ago. Wow.
Yeah, 2004.
Jeez, because it doesn't, when you say 2004, it doesn't feel 20 years ago, but yeah, it's 20. No. Yeah, it's gone quick.
Yeah.
And
I think ever since COVID, we're all going like what year is it?
Yeah, because we lost like that period of time and it just flew. That it's just gone now. The landmarks of time have just seemed to be all shifted.
Yeah.
So now you're in your late teens. You're playing local in Sydney.
Yeah.
How old were you when you jumped ship?
24.
24.
24, I got the opportunity. Do you want to go to Hollywood? So I was 24, 25 years old in Hollywood, and the band that took me out there like had management, had a label. We were touring with Faster Pussycat, and it was like I was just a kid in the candy store. Like it was like I literally got off the plane and cut to like meeting people like Richie Ramone on the red carpet for Billboard Grammys after parties with cameras flashing, just like whoa.
Yeah,
like
that's a massive shift.
It was like, and then after that, hit the road across the States for 3 months straight with Faster Pussycat opening for them. That's how I kind of met them. And in the process, it was like, the moment they met me, they were like, you're one of us, and took me under their wing. So when I go back to Australia, it was just like, wow, that was crazy. And then lo and behold, management followed up with, we've lined up visas. We're going to do it again next year. And I went out to do it and just didn't come home because, people, the phone started to ring with, hey man, we want a guitar player and do you want to do it? And it was, some of the opportunities and tours that came up, it was like, I'd be crazy if I didn't take them.
That's massive. It's funny. Most people have that hard slog, the Australian circuit. They tour the pubs over and over and over, and then they save up, and then they go to America or used to be London. Now it's probably more Europe in hope of making it. But you sort of just landed. You turned up, and it just seemed like that was your calling. Yeah,
it was one of those things that when I talk about it like this, it sounds like it happened very quickly, and it was one of those things that. Because when I was I think I started touring Australia at about 18, 19. And the first national tour I did with my band Lust at the time, we supported the Screaming Jets.
So that's a good gig.
Tour. And that was where, me and Paul Wazine instantly became like kindred spirits. And they were like, so they took us on their tour for the whole year. So that was spent, like a Mitsubishi van that it ended up blowing up with like smoke pouring out of. We drove it around the country so many times. We drove all over Australia, like, sleeping on floors, every rock and roll horror story you could imagine. This thing had no air conditioning. Like, I remember the lead singer was stoned one day and went to wind the window down in the middle of summer and accidentally broke the handle off. And we were like, we're going to kill you. And it was a hard slog. So from 18, 19 to 24, that's what I did. I just hammered it and hammered it and hammered it. And so there's been a lot of hard work before I kind of landed in the States, and I was just fortunate that maybe it's because I grew up on so much American music and pop culture that I could speak I could
You gelled with
communicate.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just fit in there right away. Like, they would say, I love this guy. And I was
Yeah.
like, wow, everyone here is really friendly. This is cool.
Oh,
But it's not all been easy. Like, I've got plenty of Hollywood horror stories too. But when I hear, the people that have done the hard slog to try and make it out there and it hasn't worked, I feel very fortunate because,
yeah.
it was like just a great combination of hard work and luck.
Yeah.
That was every opportunity that popped up, I was just ready to grab onto it with two hands and knew every step of the way. It's like, if I fuck this up, you came all this way.
You,
You only
you
get one
don't.
shot. And that
Yeah.
mentality is just what I've taken. Even when 15 years old playing to no one, and guys go get a haircut, all that kind of stuff.
Oh,
I always played every gig as if it was Madison Square Garden, just because I might have been a bit delusional. I don't know, but it was just like I just had this conviction, like if I put everything into this, I know it'll work.
yeah. Is to land a support act with the Jets is a good gig, especially on the Australian circuit. I mean, they're the premier rock artists.
Yeah, and we became really good friends on that tour too. It wasn't like, some tours where it's like, here's the headlining act and the support band's there, but you only see them at sound check. They were like, come into our dressing room, have a beer. Hey, what hotel are you staying? And we, it was, I think they might have seen a younger version of themselves in us and wanted to nurture us.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was a lot of fun. It was so much fun. And it was like they were amazing times doing those gigs. Like, I really had a good time. And what really makes me happy is the amount of people back then that have continued to follow my journey every step of the way, and are like,
Yeah.
that do come to shows now, like when I'm playing with the Tats, for example, touring Australia again, and they're like, I saw you at Central Coast Leagues Club in 2009, or and I'm just like, yeah, I remember you, man. And they're like, we believed in you then, and I'm like, oh man, like that. Thank you. That's really cool because it's it's really, really cool to know that, because I'm a fan at the end of the day too. Like when I meet people, it's like, like I get it. Like
Yeah.
that's how I'm sitting here doing this, was because I was just obsessed.
Yeah.
So that makes me really happy.
And the Jets do seem that. I know they've often made a point of supporting other acts and being
Yeah.
on a level field, not this them versus us. They make a point of nurturing, like you said. And
Yeah.
if but anything, that experience of being on that same stage with the same crowd over and over and over again, that just hones in that skill set.
Yeah, and also passes it on as well. For example, if we have a support band, or
Yeah.
I'm a lot of people, maybe because they see me on stage and I have a demeanor on stage that can be pretty intense. They
Yep.
think they don't expect me to be so like, yeah, whatever, man. They're like, man, you're really easygoing. I'm like, yeah, there's beers, whatever, make yourself at home. Like it's the same thing. It's like we're all in this together, man. Like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
like I understand, and I've had my times where you're like, it's been a horror movie just getting to the venue, and you're sitting there like, I don't want to talk to anyone. I just got to, get my head in the game. So I understand when some people can be like that. But for me, most of the time, I'm just like, whatever, dude. Like, how's it going?
So you got the call up to go back to America. You came home. They rang
Yeah.
you up and said, "We want you to come back." How long were you
Yeah.
over there then?
I was there 10 years.
10 years.
Yep. I
Wow.
actually, yeah, nine and a bit. So I got back at the start of 2023. And this would have been like February 2014.
Gee. And is the scene over there, everyone's got a picture in their head that, that the LA scene is the pinnacle of the rock circuit. Is it
Mm,
still like that? Like you hear people say, "Oh, you've got to be in New York, or you've got to be in Texas or Austin,
yeah.
or but is it still LA? You can turn up and still have a big rock scene happening."
That's a good question. It all depends on the style of rock or music you're playing, is what I'll say.
Oh,
But
right. So it's broken up a
like,
lot.
it's like one of those things. If you're playing Southern or country rock, you want to be in Texas or Nashville.
Right.
You know what I mean? Whereas like the Sunset Strip, it's Hollywood. It's the mecca and epicenter of entertainment. Like whether you're a musician, an actor, anything
Right.
like that, it definitely is, amazing. But it's one of those things that I always knew in the back of my head, because but when I was doing the Jets tour, for example, I had people here going like, man, why don't you go to Hollywood? And I always knew, I'm like, I want to, but I'm not going there unless I've got a foot in the door, because I'd done enough research, but also I even just had a gut feeling like it's not going to be easy. And then
Yeah.
after that Faster Pussycat tour and having a home base of pretty much older versions of me, like if you get us in a room, it's like, just like with Richie Ramone and his band, same with Faster Pussycat, like, it's like we do seem almost related.
Yeah.
And we do consider each other family, but it was like, I was like, I got my foot in the door. So that's, another reason that when the opportunity came up, because, it's a big move, like to,
Oh, yeah.
it's leaving home at, 24. It's not like I moved from Sydney to Melbourne. I moved countries,
Yeah.
like no family, no one I actually really know except these guys. But I just threw caution to the wind and went, you know what, fuck it.
That's
And
brave.
it was, I've definitely had my moments along the way of like, be careful what you wish for, kid. You got what you wanted, like,
Oh, really? Like they're
oh
thrown in the
yeah,
deep end.
oh yeah. But also, it's like, it's character building as well.
Yeah.
Um, but LA is a great place, and rock is, I wouldn't, it's like globally the same kind of conversation. Like whether you're in London, whether you're in New York, LA, everyone's kind of going like, oh, things aren't how they used to be. But
Yep.
that's just the
Yep.
world.
Yeah.
Like it's affects. But having said that, out of everywhere I've been, like it is LA. Like you can go to a gig 7 nights a week. Everyone is still flocking there to try and make it. Rock is just a subgenre now. It's like it's not 1988 where you
Yeah.
flick on the radio and the top 10 is majority rock songs.
Yeah.
It's like so that reflects globally. But having said that, what I say about LA is it's the kind of town, if you get out of it what you put into it. Like if you have your head screwed on and you're willing to get your hands dirty and work your ass off, you can, it's the land of dreams. You can make it happen. But in the same breath, I'm well aware of how fortunate I am that you know things have gone so well along the way.
Oh, yeah. It is it you must have to pinch yourself when you're at some of those venues. The
Oh
the
yeah.
iconic ones that you hear about Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses playing at, and now you're on that stage. You must be like, shit, this am I awake? Is this real?
Yeah, that's very true. Like I'll never forget, because when I moved there, like I had a bag of clothes, I had brought my Les Paul, and that was it. So I landed, and the first thing I did was, LA is a city where you need wheels, and I knew that.
Right.
So the first thing I did was I jumped on Craigslist and I found a Triumph and I bought a motorcycle so I could get around, which, in hindsight, also very brave because traffic there is nuts. But I'll
Yeah.
never forget, I was riding, and, it was my dream since I saw the Wild One to ride a Triumph. Like,
Right.
they're like my dream bike. I was riding down Sunset Boulevard on my Triumph to go to the Rainbow to meet some friends. And I went like, this is really, really cool. And then getting to the Rainbow, and it's at the point, it didn't take long for people to realize that I was there to stay, and I made friends with everyone. It's like, oh, Ronnie's here. And at first, it was very like, definitely, I was having lots of moments where people were probably going, where'd you go? And I'm going like, oh my God, I'm here. But after a while, like especially 10 years, I was never ungrateful for the experiences, but it did become so regular playing the whiskey, playing the Viper Room, doing these shows that it became my local. So
Wow.
the pinch myself feeling definitely came back more when I forced myself to stop and smell the roses. But more often than
Yeah.
not, after a while, it was just like, off to work.
Yeah. You're in it.
Yeah,
Yeah. You're not reflecting on it.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was more like, what's the next chord?
Yeah. And then you've done the Europe scene as well. So how
Yeah, I've
different
done Europe a couple of times.
is it a night and day difference?
Um, well, that's another thing. I haven't done Europe since joining Rose Tattoo, so that's
Right.
something I'm looking forward to. Like, I'm very well aware. Like, people say to me, like, where haven't you played? You want to play? And I'm like, whacking with the tats.
Yeah.
Like, that's been a dream of mine since I was busking on the street, and I haven't experienced that yet. The tours I've done in Europe, I've done a bunch of festivals, but mainly club tours.
Right.
So definitely in Germany, it's like, because before I moved to Hollywood, actually, I got an opportunity to go to Germany and make a record because after the Jets tour, I did the Party Boys tour with Swanee and Kevin
Oh,
Forrest.
okay. Yeah.
And Angry was singing too. So it was Angry and Swanee.
Ah,
And that tour was the one where me and Angry kind of really got to know each other pretty well. And I remember I said to him at soundcheck one day, I think it was like Campbelltown RSL or Doyleson, I can't even remember. And I went, what advice have you got to give, for someone that wants to do what you're doing? And he went, go to German, go to
yeah.
German. And then there's a German singer called Lutz Vegas, who's in a band called the V8 Wankers. And he wanted to do a record with me, Steve King, who's now playing with the Tats as well. And we went, so I went out there. I flew to Frankfurt. He lives in Offenbach, and then I stayed in Berlin and wrote the record with him and did that. And I came back from doing that, and that's the exact moment I got the call for Hollywood. Was pretty much when I landed.
Oh,
But I did get immersed in Germany for a good while I was out there, just trying to figure out where do I belong in the grand scheme of things. Like that whole like you're saying, it's like, where is rock big? Like at about 22, 23, I was like, all right, I'm gonna figure it out.
yeah.
And just kind of, so jumped on a plane and went there. And I loved it, like especially for punk rock too. Like
Oh,
staying in
okay.
Berlin I was in Berlin for like 3 months, and it's like that was I haven't been back in a while, like since COVID, but that's a punk rock city. Like it's like
Right.
the punk scene is massive, and the rock scene, it's huge. Like like I joke and say in Germany, like the Holy Trinity is AC/DC, Motorhead, and Rose Tattoo.
Yeah.
And and not to leave out my good buddies Joel and the guys in Airborne as
Yeah, I was
well.
going to say
Now
they're massive there, aren't they?
yeah,
Yeah.
so they come under that too.
Yep.
But it was really, really cool. Like, the instant response, oh, you're Australian, like AC/DC, Rose Tattoo,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like I love that, and their passion for it's really cool. So going back to Europe is something I'm very much looking forward to, especially now that we've signed with the European label too, because
Oh, right.
Suburban Records are based in the Netherlands. And
Oh, okay.
that's how I met those guys, was on one of these tours. In 2013, I was touring, like I said, we did the States with Pussycat, and then we did Europe. On the Europe tour, we were in Utrecht in Amsterdam, and I met these people and became friends with them. And they're now the people that run the label. And I just, again, like
Wow.
hanging out, it's like we love all the same music. We have the same person, we just, we
So you
get each
get
other.
it. Yeah.
So we just became mates. And then
Makes a
come
big
time to put
difference.
this out, I was, talking to everyone I know. Not even like I wasn't looking for a record deal. It was more like, hey, what do you think of this? And
Oh.
then, they were like, I work for a label now. We want to put it out. And I'm not going to say no to that.
No.
So that's another reason, as well as going to Europe with the Tats, is, I want to get the Redback Spiders over there because we got a label based in Holland pushing it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So you've what was the year that you then packed up from the US and decided to come back to Australia?
2023.
So
So
only recent.
what happened? Yeah, it started last year, and I didn't actually decide to come back when I was leaving LA in January. So I'll give you some backstory. So 2022, after COVID had faded away and venues opened up, because there was this period where everyone's like, are we going to go out on the road, and is this going to get cancelled too? Like, is it going
Yeah.
to happen? Once the industry out there was like, nah, lockdown's over, shows are back on. I went from sitting in an apartment in Hollywood, because I spent all of lockdown out there, just waiting out the clock, because I was worried that if I left, I wouldn't be able to get back in,
Yeah.
because there was that whole border issue. So, and then in February 2021, I became a citizen.
Oh,
So
wow. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
Um, yeah, so after I got a little sidetracked there, don't mind me. So yeah, after that, once lockdown was lifted, and I'm going like, we all went through those existential crises during lockdown. Like, what am I doing? What's going to
Yeah.
happen? And I know for every entertainer out there, that was a dark period, because you're
Oh,
going,
would have had to have been. You can't
what?
work from home. Your
Well,
whole world is
that's exact.
outside and stopped.
But it was, again, it was like opening the floodgates. It went from like I have no gigs to Richie Ramone calls me, yo, I want to hit the road. And then Faster Pussycat were like, yo, our guitarist just quit. We want you. So I'm in Richie Ramone and Faster Pussycat. Bang, no gigs to a whole year of touring. I spent nearly all of
Wow.
2022 touring the world nonstop. In amongst that, I had this album of songs that became the Redback Spiders that was ready. And I just, was like, I don't want these songs to gather dust on a hard drive and another 10 years to fly by.
Yeah.
So I called up my buddy Clay Davies, who I'd played in a band with, Future Villains. He's now in Bullets and Octane. And he owns a studio in Van Nuys called One More Time Recording. And he was like, yeah, dude, let's do a record. So I literally had this tiny, tiny window of time between tours to go in and just knock it all out. So I toured, end of the year, recorded the whole record, like it just in a blur. And Faster Pussycat, like Tammy's like, hey, Bubba, we're going home. I went, what do you mean? He goes, we've got an Australian tour. You get to see your folks. I went, oh, wow, when is it? And it was right around Australia Day. So we toured,
Yeah.
the Glam Fest was us.
Yeah,
When
I was there. Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
And so I was like, mad. So, recorded the record, did that tour. And in the process, like I might have even got the email or phone call like the day before we left. And it was angry. And it was Bob Spencer's just left the group. Do you want the gig? We've got this tour coming up. And I went, I'd love it. I'm actually on my way to Australia. What are the odds? And I was like, when's the tour? And it turned out it was 2 days after the Faster Pussycat tour finished. So I finished the tour, went straight in the rehearsal room, and spent the tour listening. That's what I do when you're learning a set of, an hour and a half worth of songs. I make a playlist of the set start to finish and just listen to it in transit on the plane and the bus, whenever, just
Oh, wow.
just to do whatever practice I can without a guitar in my hand. And went that into rehearsals, did the tour, and a few days into the run, Angry was like, I want to keep you. And I went, all right. And he's like, what? He goes, do you want to join the band? I'm like, I've always wanted to join the band. He goes, well, will you stay? And I went, well, I still have an apartment in LA, because when I came back to do the tour, I still had my place out there. I wasn't sure if this was going to be a permanent thing. Like
Right. So you've
I
got
thought it was,
another world, a world away.
yeah. So it was like, I was kind of like just playing it by ear, because also keep in mind, I've been on the road for the whole year leading up to this. Like I was in the zone and I was firing on all cylinders, but living that life, like your brain is constantly going at a million miles an hour, or it's just like flatlining. There's no middle ground. And so yeah, I went yes. Uh, and there was also another series of events that led to this. It was all roads pointed to this making sense for me to do. I had a long think about it, and it was like, yes, this is what I want. So then we went back out to do the Monsters of Rock cruise, and I was in both Rose Tattoo and Faster Pussycat. So I did double duties. So I was
Oh,
playing with
right.
both bands on the ship. And after that, I had about 3 weeks in LA to kind of sell my car, move out of my apartment, figure out what I want to take with me. And it was kind of like a really, I knew it'd be a lot, but it was, when you're taking 10 years of your life and going,
Yeah.
that's going in the suitcase and that's going in the bin. It was very like, it was emotional.
It would be.
And so, yeah, so I did that, came back, and then bang, hit the road with the tats again. And now here we are. It's been a year. So in the process, because I was also gone for basically 10 years. So it's like, reacclimating to being back in Sydney, living day to day, when my last real memory of existing here was 2013. So,
Yeah, long time ago. Yeah.
it's, I make the joke sometimes I feel like a stranger in my own hometown, just because after 10 years, go figure. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
No regrets. That's you reinforced. You made the right decision to come back and call here home base.
Yeah, well, there's always going to be that voice in your head that analyzes everything, but I never say in life that I have no regrets. That'd be a lie. I think everybody has some regrets,
Yeah.
but I have, regarding the choices and decisions I've made regarding, for example, my career, the people I've worked with, um, the big life choices I've made, I'm I'm proud of them, because that's something I've learned is, as much time as you can spend thinking and overthinking everything, you sometimes you got to go with your gut too.
Yeah.
And I hadn't seen, like, the main communication I'd had with my folks and my family for 10 years is how I'm talking to you right now.
Yeah.
And they're
Yeah.
getting older, man. So it was one of
Yeah.
those things that I it made sense, and I'm really, really grateful and proud I did it. But I definitely want to state for the record that, it was a hard choice. It's like I didn't leave LA like, I'm out of here, I'm going to Australia, goodbye. It was more
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna miss you guys, man. I'm gonna miss you guys. It's not goodbye. It's see you next time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's right. You can go back anytime and go back for a tour. You can
Yeah,
jump on
that's
and do
it. Like,
something. Yeah.
yeah. And in order to do the tats, because so much of the touring is based here, and rehearsing and writing and working on new things, all that's going on, I have to physically be here. Like, yes, I've been able to make things work via correspondence in the past, but
Yeah.
I realized that it was like, okay, I get to see my family, I get to play with my heroes, I get to be a part of this amazing Australian legacy that
Yeah.
made me who I am.
Yeah.
And knowing, it's going to end in 2026, as
Well, I was going
Angry
to
said.
ask you about that. Yeah. Angry announced 26 is the end of the road
Yeah,
for them.
50
And
years, 50
that's, which
years,
is
70.
massive. 50 years yeah, that's huge.
Yeah. So also knowing that, it was kind of like, I want to be there.
Yeah.
To be as welcomed as I am, and have put so much dedication and love into loving this band. It
Yeah.
was like, this makes sense. So
Uh-huh.
at the end of 2026, I've got some decisions to make, but I don't have a crystal ball. So right now, I'm forcing myself to go with the flow and smell the roses, pun intended,
Yeah.
which is something, with my lifestyle and life, as a consequence of just the decisions I've made, and, kind of throwing caution to the wind and taking big chances. You kind of don't get as much time to smell the roses and appreciate and have those pinch yourself moments,
Yeah.
because, especially if you're in fight or flight mode, like, you go, this is amazing, but also I have to focus on what I'm doing so I don't fuck it up.
Yeah. Yeah. Foot to the floor the whole time. Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Wow. So obviously with your own gig in your own band, your own single, that's going to be a staple of what you can do no matter what else happens. You're in that
That's it.
position.
Yeah, yeah, and that was kind of one of the many driving forces behind doing things the way I've done them. And it started with, I've got these songs, I just want to express myself, but
Yeah.
also, again, in the flurry of, I have to get this done, I'm fighting the clock. But also, I produced the record myself. Like, my buddy Clay Davies, I said, engineered and mixed it, and me and him have a great working relationship together. Like, let
Yeah.
it be known, if anyone out there wants a great rock record produced, if you get me and him to do it for you, it'll sound good.
It does
Um,
sound good. Like
Thank
it.
you.
I've got to mention it. It instantly. It sounds established. It doesn't. It doesn't sound like it's your first rodeo. It sounds like everything came together. It sounds really, really good. It's got a really well mixed, well produced. That was the first thing that rung to me when I heard it. It didn't in any way sound like someone's having a go or their first go. It sounded really
Yeah.
well put together.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's like I said, it's like, that's something that, having played for other people for so long, I got all this experience of, making so many records with people, being hired to play on other people's records, and just my love of the craft and dissecting things. Like, I've had the skill set to produce and write for a really long time, and as well as going, I wanted to get these songs out there. It
Yeah.
was, I wanted to put a flag in the ground and go, no, I can actually do this, and I know how to do it, not in a look at me, I'm so great kind of way, more in a way of like, hey, just let it be known. And also, if anyone else out there is looking to get a record produced or wants advice, or I do have this knowledge, and I I put a lot of work into that, but it's really, really gone. The way it's been received has made me really, really happy that, for example, everything you just said, I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
because I knew it up here, and I had this feeling in my gut like I, I know how to do this, but this has been the first thing and first time I've put me out there, like me up the
Yeah.
front
Yeah.
since, and even my band that was touring with the Jets, like I ended up on guitar. Like when I first started out at 15, I was singing and fronting the band and playing guitar, kind of because, you're kicking around a rehearsal room. It's like, who are we going to get to sing? And I was like, bugger it, I'll do it. And after a while, people started to be like, you're a really good guitarist. And I was like, oh, thanks. They're like, do you want to play for us? And I was like, no, no, I'm doing my own thing. But after enough time, people can be pretty enticing with some offers. It wore me
Yeah.
down. I went, okay. So I became a lead guitarist and a guitarist. And I still wrote in that band, but it was like, it's kind of come full circle. Like, when I started in the pubs 20 years ago, I was fronting and singing and playing guitar. And now I'm out the front singing, and I played all the guitar on the record, but with the live band, I'm not playing guitar, which is
Really?
something that,
So
yeah,
you straight out
I'm just
singing?
singing. Yeah, we're a four-piece band with me out the front. And one
Wow.
of the reasons behind that is I realized very quickly that I've done my 10,000 hours on guitar. I have not done my 10,000 hours as a frontman singing because I've been a guitarist the whole time. A lot of these songs that you'll hear on the records as they come out, to sing and play them at the same time is a nightmare.
Right.
And
So you want to give
when
it
I got
the
back,
attention it deserves.
yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
taking like that to the, patting your head and rubbing your tummy to the next level.
Yeah.
And I realized by just having a mic in my hand, I'm like, okay, I can do this justice in front of people in a way that I'm proud of, as well as the performance aspect of it. But that wasn't really the driving force. And plus the guitarists in the Redback Spiders, like Hayden that's on guitar, Sean Anderson that's on guitar, and we've got, Chip Scanu on drums and young Tommy Hills on bass. But Ando and Hayden, they were younger people to me when I was back in that band touring with the Jets, and they were, and we always got along. And I was like, man, these guys get it. You guys have got it. This is great. Keep it up. I went to the States, came back, and we were catching up. And I was like, well, do you guys want to do it? Like, I trust you. Like, you guys are great.
Wow.
And so I've got people that I know have my back and can pull it off. And if there's ever anything guitar wise that comes up that, for example, it's like, no, I actually play it like this, they pick it up like that. But
That's really
it,
good. It's good you
it
got that relationship because you're getting the sound in your head out and you're able
yeah,
to do what you want to focus on.
yeah. And Hayden that's on guitar as well, like he totally gets where I'm coming from as a songwriter, as a, it's very much like it's like a little brother, really. Like it's,
Wow.
not that he's, they are younger than me, but it's like I see them as equals. But it's
Yeah.
the relationship and camaraderie there. It works so well. So it's, I understand for a lot of people, it's like, why aren't you playing guitar? So I played all the guitar on the record, but come check it out live and let me know what you think, because I think it works.
So the first single's out, Alone with You. When's the next one?
October 18th.
Oh, okay. So under a month away.
Yeah, under a month away. The
Yeah.
next single, Little Misunderstood, which Richie Ramone played drums on, comes
Wow.
out October 18th. And then the EP part one drops November 22nd.
Okay. So it's all the tail end of this year is all, it's all
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, November 20th. So we start it's called the 2024 Australian Bite Tour, because the EP is called Bite Part One. And so the tour starts on November 21st, and then that's at the Factory Theatre in Sydney supporting the Suite.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then
Wow.
after, the day after that, bang, the EP's out, and then we're going up to Brisbane. We're doing Greaser Bar. Then we've got Bendigo with Black Aces on the 29th, Cherry Bar in Melbourne on the 30th, and then back in Sydney on December 14th at the Factory Theatre again. And hopefully next year we can get Adelaide, Tassie, and Perth, and Gold Coast. Hopefully we can
Hopefully
get
Gold
everywhere else.
Coast. Yeah.
That's all we could. That's all we could kind of squeeze in
And it's
before
a
the.
lot of travel. It's everything's so stretched. Everything's
Oh,
so far
that's
away.
something in the States that, is really, really funny. Like a lot of Americans I've been on tour with being like, oh man, this is a long drive. I'm like, try doing Sydney to Brisbane in the middle of summer with a van that doesn't have air conditioning, and there's no
Yeah.
one window that winds down.
Yeah,
12
yeah.
hours you're still in there, like in your boxer shorts, running in
Uh,
pool rooms and driving bottle-os just to cool down. Like
and then get all the roadworks, the
5 hour
never-ending
drive,
Australian
that's nuts.
roadworks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if I can bring you back to the guitarist in you, because I've
Yeah.
got to ask the question about equipment. What
Yeah.
what defines your sound? So obviously, I've seen you play with Rose Tattoo. I saw you at Vinny's Dive Bar. Probably was it back in June when you guys were
Yeah. Yeah.
May,
That was
June?
nice. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was really good. One of the best shows I've seen there in that venue.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, it was really good. And so there's no doubt you're a Les Paul and a Marshall guy,
Yeah.
and you've just got your own pedal as well. So let's
Yeah.
drill into if you're up for it, like the Les Paul. What's
Yeah. Well, we'll
what's
go through the
what's the
guitars.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Let's start off with the items of choice that you've got and what you've done with them.
Okay. I like this. My number one workhorse always was my white Les Paul Custom that I've had since I was a
Right.
teenager. That's
Okay.
taken a back seat after it was unfortunately dropped and broken in the studio when I was recording the Motorchrist album at Gilby Clark's studio in Hollywood.
Oh
And the
no.
headstock, everyone that owns a Gibson out there that, I'm sure you get what I'm talking about. Like
Yeah.
they're notorious. And it was one of those things that it was so shattered that I had to have a headstock transplant. So the headstock that's on that, it was so shattered, they created a new one, took the faceplate off the old one, put it on, and then
Oh,
reattached it to the guitar. So I don't actually have any serial numbers on the back of my white custom because
wow.
it was total. And luckily, if there's anyone that knows a good guitar tech, it's Gilby Clark. Like that guy's studio is like, you name the guitar and amp, that guy's got it.
Wow.
And
Okay.
he's become a good mate. He's a great dude. But yeah, so my number one guitar now is a 59 reissue Sunburst Les Paul. And that I put Gibson 498T pickups in every one of my guitars. I have the same
Really?
pickup in every single guitar I own. Yep, it's my favorite sound. I've done shootouts with like including same pickups in different guitars and how the wood and for
Yeah.
example, I've got them in that. I've got it in my SG. I've got them in my Black Les Paul. All three guitars sound completely different, but with the same pickups.
Wow, that's amazing.
But recording in the studio, the 59 reissue Sunburst Les Paul that gratefully and thankfully Gibson Guitars gave to me after that white custom was smashed, because I had to go on the road not long after that. And I was like, I don't have a guitar. And, I was already with Gibson, but Gilby's also with Gibson. So we kind of both went in, and the guys at Gibson Beverly Hills were like, bang, here you go.
Oh,
And,
geez. How lucky is that?
talk about like a dream come true when you think about how much I, scrimped and saved and sweat to get my first guitar. And now Gibson's just like,
Oh, wow,
and I
that's
was just like,
incredible.
they've been so good to me, and I'm very grateful for that. But that's my number one studio guitar. Regarding it's the biggest, it's that sound. The next guitar that I use, which has become my probably main one that I'm using lately, is a 61 reissue Gibson SG, the white one that I have.
Oh, okay.
And that's been customized a lot. There's a lot of really cool stories behind that guitar too. It actually, like, one of the gigs I did out there was with Todd Youth, that was in Ace Frehley, Murphy's Law, Danzig. He's played with Motorhead.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, like he had a band called the Chelsea Smiles, which Johnny Martin was the bass player in, who ended up playing bass on the record. And I've also done a lot of tours with, and it was Todd unfortunately passed away. Um, it's very, very sad, but that was his guitar, and I have it.
Oh,
Like, it was
wow.
one of those things. I helped him get it through Gibson for this gig we were doing, and then he passed away, and it was kind of like, well, the guitar was under my name, and they let me hang on to it. And it was cherry. It was a 61 cherry red, very Angus Young. It had two pickups in it. And what I did was I took it to Central Coast Guitars in New South Wales, and I went, combine this with a Les Paul Jr. So I had the neck pickup filled in. I had all the pots except one, the volume, filled in, and a kill switch put in so I could use it as a toggle like you would on a Les Paul, and had the entire thing resprayed white. And I put a string butler on it, which, I put them on all my guitars. So, here's a little plug: the string butler. check it out. If you've got a
Okay.
3x3 headstock Gibson style guitar, everyone knows that G is a nightmare to keep in tune.
Yeah.
Fender guitars have the Fenders have the little like guides. I'm not sure about the exact term, correct, but those little
Oh, those little hook.
yeah, the
Yeah.
guide,
Yep.
yeah, the guide the string into the nut so they all go in directly straight instead of on an angle. Well, this is designed, it goes where your truss rod cover normally would be, and it does the same thing for Gibson style guitars. So all the strings, they come in at an angle, but then they're straight when they hit the nut and go all the way down to the bridge. It actually works.
So it
It
makes a
works.
big difference.
Yep, I've used that SG with Richie Ramone, and we play like an hour and 15 minutes of Ramone songs, and his songs too. But in that style of just, there's no talking between songs. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, bam, for an hour and 20 minutes straight. I've done gigs where every time I've gone to the tuner, I'm like, nope, still in.
Wow.
Yep. And that's also the SG that I have. That's another reason I've been using it so much. It's the guitar I play in the Alone With You video as well. It's got the tapped snake on it now. It has that really bitey. It's not as fat as the Les Paul, but it's really for rhythm. It just sounds amazing. It never goes out of tune. It's lighter than a Les Paul,
Yeah.
because I was always a Les Paul guy until Todd Todd and his SGs that's how I kind of acquired it. And after a while and trying it out, it's grown on me. The other guitars I have, I've got the black Les Paul that I have that's got the silver tat snake on it. That was actually my first guitar. Well,
Jeez.
second guitar, but it was my first Les Paul. My first guitar was because I grew up in Erskineville around the inner west of Sydney, and in the late 90s it was still pre-gentrification. So I had a junkie break into my house and steal my first guitar, which so I used the insurance money to buy my first Les Paul from Smithies in Stanmore, and it was this black Les Paul, the Paul 2. So it's kind of like an SG meets a Les Paul. Like it plays like an SG. It sounds like an SG. It has the weight of an SG. So for a 13, 14-year-old, it was perfect.
Oh, yeah.
But it's in the shape of a Les Paul. So, and I've got that. And they're the main and my custom. They're the main ones that I have. And I put all of them into my Solo Dallas JTM 50, Solo Dallas is a company from the States that they've been really, really good to me, and they endorse me too, and I endorse them. Their whole thing is Aussie rock.
Right.
Phil that runs the company is an AC/DC fanatic. It's basically a hand-wired replica of Malcolm Young's 1969 JTM amp.
Oh, and he makes them like.
Yeah, you can go to the website and get them. It's so good that I flew it back from the States and had it converted. I didn't buy, I when I was picking my things to take back, I went,
that's got to come.
And it was, it wasn't cheap, but it was worth it. And it's like, it just has that warm, fat, clean, dirty sound where it's clean, but it's the sound. And I used that and Clay Davies JMP, Marshall JMP on the record. So the record was basically my SG, my Sunburst Les Paul, my JTM 50, and Marshall JMP. And that was pretty much all the guitars with those guitars.
Wow. And those amps, they don't have, are they a master volume?
Good. No, they're not. And
so you've got
it's 6 knobs, and it has a master volume in it now.
Right.
And that's like, I took it on the road with that Faster Pussycat tour in 2022. And it was one of those things, to get that amp to have that sound, you got to kind of get it up.
Yeah.
5 or 6, around 12 o'clock to break up. I remember being on stage at the Whiskey and the thing was on 1 and everyone's just like, Ronnie, like, dude. And I'm like, so I ended up having to
they were saying it was too loud, even at that venue.
That thing on like 1 or 2 is just like it's so loud. And so what I ended up doing was I ended up using a distortion pedal for that sound. Like, so I have the amp, basically, and some of these shows were big stages, man. Even then, I never got to crank the thing to where it should go.
Yeah.
So after that tour, I was like, bugger this. When I got back to Australia and had it converted to 240 volts instead of 110, I just went, man, I know this is almost sacrilege. Put a master volume in it. Like, and so yes, there is a difference in tone if you change it to have a master volume, but the reality is the amount of times I actually got to turn it up.
So now you can use it more and you can
Yeah,
get a great sound a lot more often.
yeah,
Yeah.
without, destroying everyone in the front.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's that. And regarding effects, yeah, I use the Mostronics RTS1 Ronnie Simmons Blood and Thunder. And
Yeah. Yeah. I
that
was
that
going to ask you about how that
yeah,
came about.
that came about. Well, Mostronics, Andrew that runs the company, we've been in touch for a while. And he was I I know he makes pedals for like Bob Spencer and a few other people, and I'd seen his
Yeah.
stuff online, and we got in touch, and he sent me out some pedals to the States. And
Oh,
my
okay.
effects setup is like I always say, if I had it my way, like for example making the record, just straight into the
Straight
amps,
in.
like,
Yeah.
just straight in. But on stage, if you've got a solo or whatever, and especially if you're in a band with two guitarists, you need
You
something
need like a
to,
boost. Yeah.
unless you've got a double channel amp, which
Yeah.
like if it's a fly-in date for some, like for Faster Pussycat fly-ins, because there were songs like House of Pain that are clean, that
Yeah.
then go to crunch, that then go to a solo. Using a multi-channel Marshall was what I do, but that was kind of out of necessity. But yeah, I tried these pedals out, and I ended up, there was a couple of them that I was just like, I love this. This is amazing. This is the sound. And when I was back here, I was talking to him, and he was like, I've got this one. Let me know what you think of this. And I went, these are my favorite too, but is it possible we could put them into one? Like I was, just kind of like, just less, just one less thing to worry about going
Yeah.
wrong. Or, I just went, these are the two things that I basically use live. Can we put them into one? And he went, well, I can make you a signature pedal. And I was like, well, who's going to say no to that?
Yeah.
Like, I was like, cool. But that's kind of how it came about. Like, was I told him, of your pedals, this is the one that I like. Regarding, this, can you make it do this? And all this kind of stuff. And I can wire my own guitars, but when it comes to amps and pedals, looking at an electronic diagram, like I learned to what, if I need to change a pickup on the road with a soldering iron because one dies, I can do that out of necessity.
Yeah.
But
But
if
design and engineer
if
is
something
next
goes wrong with
level.
my amp, I'm like, I'm not touching that. Like I'm
Yeah.
I haven't learned how to do that yet.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah. So I said, can I design it? Like as in what it looks like? And he goes, yeah, sure. So that's why it looks the way it does, and that's available now to buy from ronnie-simmons.com, and it's global shipping, and it's actually it's that's the pedal I use live. I use one of them and a tuner with the tats, and that's it.
And that's it. Wow. And it's a great looking pedal.
Well,
It
thank
is
you.
a really, really nice. It matches Andrew. You can see his design is sort of as in the case and the
Yeah,
graphic on top. It just, yeah, it pairs well. It really pairs
yeah.
well.
Yeah, thank you. Like that's something, because I've given a few to some friends. Like I got one to Slash. I gave one to like the guys in Alice Cooper. I've given one to Chris Cheney from The Living End. And when I got one to Slash, he was like, "Well, no matter what it sounds like, it looks cool." He was like, "That thing looks good." I was like, "Thanks, Slash."
Yeah.
So I'm waiting to hear back on, because like as we met when we played together on the tour, but I'm got to follow up and get his 2 cents on what it sounds like, because he's been on the road a lot.
Yeah.
So
Well, I'm sure everyone would love it because it does. I know a lot of the other pedals that he makes. They all have a great sound to them. They're all
yeah,
great pedals, and they're handmade. Like
in
you know,
Australia too, and I
in
love that.
Australia, handmade. Yeah,
Love
he
that.
makes them with passion. He makes it because he loves them.
Yeah, and me, that's why me and him get along so well. I think is because I play them because I love them. So it's like,
Yeah, no, that's
you know,
unreal. It seems, and you'd be better equipped to, I suppose, offer a real world opinion. It seems that when you're on the outside of the industry looking in, everyone is converting to Friedman. Is
oh,
is
they are really, like I've used a, like, again, back to Gilby Clarke. Like when I did a record with the Motorchrist record Chrome in 2015. If you check that out on Spotify, like I did the majority of the guitars on that.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, yeah. Like the first single, I Don't Ride Bitch, that's like I did the solo. That's all me, and I
I'll
can't
check that
remember back
out.
to 2015 too well. Like I'm pretty sure I used one of Gilby's Friedmans on that, as well as some Marshalls as well. They're great amps, but it was one of those things that the moment I discovered the Solo Dallas amp, like all their gear is incredible. Like as well as the fact that Phil and Donnie that work at the company, they're like family to me. Like that's another reason that
Yeah.
I stick with the people I work with, like Andrew at Mostronics, Phil and Donnie at Solo Dallas, um, Tim at Ernie Ball. All these people, like I stick with them because we take care of each other, as well as the fact that they make the products
That's
that I
good
like the
stuff.
best.
Yeah.
Like, I've played through Friedman's and I love them. I've got nothing bad to say about them, but it was one of those things that, the moment I got, bitten, so to speak, it was like, this is for me.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
so yeah, definitely check it out. The Solo Dallas JTM 50. It's on their website.
Yeah. Okay.
It's if you want that like kind of Albert's Records guitar sound, like look no further than this amp because they've
That
nailed
just
it.
nails it.
Yeah.
Wow. And no doubt, obviously, they'd be rare as anything over here in Australia.
Yeah, it will. That's another reason I ship mine back. Like I did the
Yeah.
math, so I'm like, if I sell this here and then buy one, it's cheaper for me to ship it back.
Yeah.
Like, and aside
Yeah.
from the fact that I'd grown attached to the amp because it was, like Phil
Yeah.
from the company is like, he's such a good dude. Like when I went, I'd like an amp. He's like, we don't have any in the shop right now, but I have mine, and he gave me like, well,
Wow.
yeah. So it was kind of like a very very special to me. So
And then you develop that relationship with your gear because you turn it on and you know what to expect and you
well
know how to
that
make it work.
that's exactly it. Like, and of course, there's some dates in some states and areas where you got a backline. So like
Yeah.
I'll just I'll go for a JCM 800. Like if someone goes, "What do you need?" It's like either a JMP or a JCM 800. I know that'll work.
So you can do what you need to do with an 800.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's it.
And obviously then if you've got your signature pedal, you're plugging that in and you've got any shaping that needs to occur is within this personalized device.
100%, and that's another reason that I have the pedal the way it is because it's like there's a modes. There's the blood channel and the thunder channel. The blood channel's the distortion side, and there's
Right.
two modes. Up, it's a little I'd say up is like rhythm and down is like lead. I think is like a
Oh,
good way.
okay. So a bit more bitey on the down and
Yeah,
yep.
there's just a bit more like the top one's a bit drier,
Right.
and and I did a bunch of gigs like flying dates, like for example with Richie Ramone, and it could be like you're in, you name it, like Sweden or Mexico. You get somewhere, and the only amp that they could find was like a Fender combo, and you get to the venue, and it's like this is all I have to, and it's clean. There's not a scrap of gain on it. So
Yeah.
another reason I designed this pedal in this way is so if you're a rock guitarist, no matter where you are, you kind of got everything for that style of music. Like, if you're running something where, it's tap dancing and you have every effect in the book,
Yeah.
then, obviously you're going to need more. But if,
Yeah.
for example, a set of Ramone songs or Rose Tattoo songs, it's like, if you got a clean amp, you're not high and dry because you kick the thunder channel in, which is like a boost, but it's also like a boost that pushes it even harder. If you got, that way you can get a rhythm sound and you can still have solos that, like when that boost kicks in, I was adamant. Like I've used some boost pedals along the way, and it's like, yeah, it boosts it a bit, but that doesn't cut it. I said to Andrew, like when that boost kicks in, just fucking redline the thing. Like I want this to be like, Scotty in Star Trek going, I'm giving it all I got. Like, and that's definitely like if you dime that thing, it's just like, whoa, that thing's loud. So that was
Yeah.
the thought process behind that as well. So it's like, it's a pedal that is, as well as looking cool and sounding cool, it's also functional in the sense of, if I got a fly-in date somewhere and I've got that and a tuner on my pedal board, I know that no matter what, I'm going to be all right, and I
Yeah,
can pull off.
you'll get by. You can do what you need to
Yeah,
do.
that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. That's unreal. Well, Ronnie, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. You've
Oh,
made
thank
a
you very much.
made a yeah, it's been great chatting to you. Is there anything else you want to cover, talk about?
Um, if you haven't already, please check out the new video and single "Alone with You." And stay tuned for Little Misunderstood on October 18th. And pay attention to the EP part one drops November 22nd, and part two will be dropping sometime next year. So that'll be another 6 songs.
Wow.
And after that, it'll be a full LP and there's bonus tracks coming too.
Jeez, there's a
there's
lot up
more.
your sleeve.
Yeah, there's I'm ready to fuck spiders, dude.
There's a lot of tricks up there ready to go.
Yeah,
Wow.
as well as stay tuned for all the cool rose tattoo stuff we have coming for 2025 and 2026. Like we're going to be back, we're going to be back kicking ass, all around the world in no time. So,
Well, yeah,
and
because
just,
two big ears.
yeah, that's it, and there's merch, t-shirts, stickers, patches, all that stuff's available on the website. And just keep sharing it. And thank you for anyone that's heard it and digs it and flying the flag. Like I really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I'm sure it'll do well for you. It's great song, great sounding, and if there's more to come, it's more to love.
Thanks, man.
Thank you very much for checking out the show. If you did like it and have the opportunity, please do leave a 5-star review on your podcast player. It does help others find the show. If you want to find out more information about this episode, the guest, or even the other episodes that are on offer, head over to bumpinginto.com.au. Don't forget the AU. Find the episode page, and I always do my best to list follow-up links and details that make it easy for you to find out more. Thanks again for stopping by, and I'm looking forward to bumping into you next time.